This is going to serve as a practice commentary run for no pause storage. Like, imagine if I was submitting to GDQ or was at GDQ or any other event. And then, obviously, I'd be explaining stuff the whole run, doing a no reset. That is essentially what this will be. This will also be for, you know, just people who are interested in me just explaining things. I haven't done one of these practice commentary runs since world record was like 107 or something, so I just wanted to see how it'd go. You know, just one take. No webcam because my shirt is off, and, no second commentator because this is a very specific, you know, thing. And also, there aren't any, like, top-level players that could really accurately describe everything, like, alongside me, so I probably, like, if I got this game into whatever, like, ESA or whatever, I probably would have to commentate everything myself anyway, which is fine. But, yeah. So just pretend I've already said stuff before the run. I don't even know what they say anymore. I haven't watched, like, marathon runs in a while. But yeah, I'm just gonna try and do, like, all my strats, pretty much, and just see how it goes. Right, I'll try my hardest to not reset. Okay, so... Time starts in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go. The objective of this game is to... Well, there are 68 Goofy Gooba tokens that you could collect in total. Their main objective to get rewarded with a Goofy Gooba token for completing each objective. However, for this category, we only need 43 total. So we will be handpicking what we do, although we still have pretty significant restrictions. That trick just then is one of the harder tricks in the run, but it saves about half a second if done well. There, I'm building up speed so that I can skip this section, right? Otherwise, I have to, like, press a button and wait for a platform to rise. You know, just building up speed in the rock. Here, I'm just extending my jumps to get across a gap so that I can once again skip buttons in a cutscene. This is supposed to act as sort of like a tutorial level, but we just, like, skip everything anyway. And that was a token animation skip. Token animation skips, or sometimes known as 2 frames, although that doesn't... that one in particular was a 1 frame. They skip the entire token animation, and they don't save the exact same amount of time every single time, like every single token. But that one in particular saved like 8 seconds. And if you... when you pause the game, it advances 1 frame, and... because of that, there is within a 2-frame window of nearly every token in the game where you can walk up to it, press start, and if you and the game will advance a frame, and if you are within the 2-frame window, you will collect a token without having to sit through the animation. Although there is an actual difference between a 1-frame token and a 2-frame token. If it's a 1-frame, the counter will increase before you warp away, and if it's a 2-frame, it won't. So they're significantly easier, but also very risky. This challenge I did just then, this is the first level with Patrick, and it's the first proper level in the game, really. So it has, like, 5... well, every level mainly has 6 objectives, all the platforming levels, except this one, which has 5, and No Cheese, which has 1. And I guess boss fights as well. But yeah, that challenge I did just then, it's supposed to be done in late game, but I did it early, because we're really strapped for tokens in this category. And it would hardly save time to do in late game anyway, let alone, like, factoring routing. And this is the first interaction you have with Mindy, and a lot of the time when you talk to Mindy, she'll give you abilities in the platforming levels and stuff. And for that one, we needed 2 tokens for Cartwheel, and you saw me use it just then real quick. Cartwheel is Patrick's fastest method of movement, and is just the fastest method of movement in this game in general. And it's just very useful for getting around. We were able to skip, like, a huge section of the level by just climbing up from the beginning to get to the end-level token. End-level tokens are unique, because end-level tokens are the main objective of a level, and when you complete them, it'll boot you into the next level. This is the first sliding and driving level in the game. Well, this is a driving level. This is obviously supposed to act as a tutorial level. So it's quite basic, but there is a trick towards the end. There's nitros in these levels, which I used just a second ago and I have right now. You can stack up to 10 at once. They give you speed boosts. And it's best to use them on off-road sections, and things, you know, similar to that. Or if you just lost a bunch of speed. I just collected a treasure chest. They are completely worthless in this category, but, yeah, there's 42 of them scattered throughout the game. And some of them you just drive right into. So this is a good example of when nitros would be used. As for the token 2 frames, by the way, I was able to use lag to make the window to collect the tokens and skip the animations much larger. So the game's menus are very laggy, so I was able to open up the upgrade menu and then close it and then quickly press start, and it lagged the game a lot. And it gave me, again, a much bigger window, maybe about a quarter of a second window or something to... or a third of a second window. Grab the tokens. Some of them are obviously not worth grabbing, though, as you saw with, like, the end-level token. Okay, I'm very glad I got that. That is known as sandwich out of bounds, and it's really hard. I needed to preserve 3 nitros, and then you nitro on a dirt pile, land out of bounds, go to the opposite side because there's a checkpoint that you can grab. Driving levels have checkpoints through them, and if you miss a single one, then this trigger right here to end the level just doesn't exist. You have to pass all of them. So when going out of bounds, I grabbed the checkpoint while out of bounds, and then I was able to complete the trick by landing back in bounds the other side. And it saves about maybe 16 seconds compared to normal. Just casually going around. So this is the first proper platforming level with SpongeBob. We just unlocked the bash move, which you saw really quick just then. We are able to immediately abuse this for something called bash boosting. During SpongeBob's damage animation, if I hold Y during any of it, then SpongeBob will bash in midair after the animation has ended, when he's normally not supposed to be able to do that. And we are able to cross gaps quite easily with this exploit. Although, obviously, you have to be cautious of health. I'll be killing enemies sometimes and stuff because I'll need manliness points. I mentioned it earlier, but there's an upgrade menu. And they will usually double the damage of your moves and even potentially have other advantages as well. Also, we are going to bash boost up here. Skip like a really big section. I just grabbed a warp by destroying the rocks, and now I'm going to do a trick known as bounceless. So with that button, when you bash it, it's supposed to spawn a cutscene. It's supposed to start a cutscene. But if you pause within a 4-frame window before bashing the button, you can skip the cutscene, which also forces you to collect these tokens in a different order. So that token I collected just then was from that bounce objective. And now we're gonna do a trick known as Steamed Early. This token is called Patrick Gets Steamed, but even the easy method of this still uses SpongeBob because it's very fast and not very hard. But we are going to do some ceiling swimming, and then we're going to do some bash boosting out of bounds. And this also skips, like, a big section. I'm part of this objective. And then we clip back in bounds with a ledge grab. And then we're able to collect the token. But now we are going to finish the bounceless setup route that I was talking about earlier. At this point, we can die in the cacti, respawn back to just before doing Steamed Early, and then we can go to the Sponge Bowl challenge. This game has little out-of-world objectives, you know, little mini-games. Kind of similar to in Super Mario Sunshine. So there are sponge bowl challenges, floating block challenges, and combat arenas, although we won't be seeing those in this run. But this is the first sponge bowl challenge we'll be seeing, and it's also the easiest. There really isn't much to this one. You just go through this level quickly and collect a token. Of course, you know, I'm gonna try and two-frame it. And with these tokens, that with Sponge Bowl, they're not worth buffering, so it will be a two-frame. This would be a little tricky. I just got the fast cycle just then, so nothing really to worry about here. And then when I'm done, I can warp to the steamed objective, which I have already collected the token for. And then we are going to end this level. Going to grab the objective for floating block, but we are not going to do it just yet. And then I'm going to do something, just a little thing known as arena skip. Everybody does it, but this is a different method of it. If you're grabbing the, it's part of the steamed early route. You just bash these buttons, and then you just collect the token. Although at the very end of this, I'm going to upgrade Cartwheel. I specifically want to upgrade it here. It's faster for a reason that's complicated to explain. Speaking of complicated to explain, I'm gonna need to focus for a second. Okay, so I just skipped the entire level, and the trick is actually really hard. It's known as Rub-a-Dub Skip. This level is known as is named Rub-a-Dub-Dub Slip Slide in the Tub, so they would just call it Rub-a-Dub Skip because it skips like the entire level. We build up speed against the rail, and then with that speed, we are able to make it over to the other side if the setup is good enough. We do need to build up speed on the rail, or else there's like this force that pushes you away from the other side. But yeah, that just lets us skip, like, the entire level, and we will be coming back to do it one more time, although it will be harder that time. And now, we are in Bubble Blow and Baby Hunt, and we are immediately going to do a trick known as slide jumps. So, just give me a second. Okay. So what I did is I climbed partway up the tube to spawn these enemies over here. Because these, you're supposed to do the entire level casually, then go down the slide, and then this fight starts, and then you can collect a token to end the level. However, by starting the fight early, and then coming back here later to grab the token, we can skip a big section of the level, and if done perfectly, it saves about 20 seconds. Those jumps up the slide, however, are quite hard, because they are 2 frames. So when Patrick is about to land on the slide, there is a 2-frame window for him to jump again. So all those jumps I did up there just then were 2 frames. The game is 60 FPS, by the way. And now this level is actually very linear, so I'm just gonna be going through a pretty casually right now. The reason why we don't just collect the end level token immediately is because there's fast objectives we can get here. In other categories, we actually do this level backwards in late game, and it's really cool, but here we really need the tokens now. In fact, here's a trick known as Disco Skip. So you're supposed to go around and do the disco room. It has cool music and stuff, so it kind of sucks that we skip it, but it saves like 16, 17 seconds to skip it. And I was able to do a 1-frame damage boost to get it across. So, so in this game, when SpongeBob and Patrick, and in Battle for Bikini Bottom as well, because it uses the same engine, when SpongeBob and Patrick take damage, they'll have like a little damage animation, and the very frame after the animation ends, there is a 1-frame window where you can retain a double jump, even though you're already in midair, and have taken damage. However, I was able to buffer the inputs to, just like the tokens, make it a bigger window. And here, we're gonna warp to SpongeBob, because for some reason the trigger is all the way over here, even though the pad is, like, several seconds away. And, this challenge is quite hard if you do the advanced strat, known as Fast Corkscrew Cycle. It got discovered a very long time ago, but was not implemented into runs until 2020. But yeah, so I'm just gonna be playing, you know, as best as I can. I'll make it to the cycle early if it all goes well, and then I'll have time to set up cycle. But yeah, so it's a hard cycle, but you actually get here early, and then you need to wait a second. Okay, I just got it. Now I just need to finish it out. There we go. And now I need to get the 2-frame. Okay, so I got the 1-frame. So I'm gonna do Rub-a-Dub Skip again, but it's even harder now. So, 1 second. Did I get that? Yes, I did. So, in Rub-a-Dub 1, you spawn in mid-air. However, in Rub-a-Dub 2, in the time challenge, you don't. Which means I had to do 1-frame jumps to climb back up to the slide to then attempt the trick. So I had to do a bunch of I had to do a couple 1-frames, and then I had to start building up speed on the rail with like an awkward camera angle and stuff, which is why it's harder than the first token. But other than that, it's basically the same. And speaking of repeating objectives, we are going to do that in a second. Because now we are doing sandwich driving again. This is basically identical to the sandwich driving token that I did earlier. So instead, I would like to take this time to just mention other things about this game. The fastest version of this game for nearly every category is the original Xbox version, which is what I'm playing on. Xbox 360 has faster loads, however, for some reason this version has a faster paddy wagon. And the paddy wagon speeds are different on every version of the game. However, you need to play on Xbox for this category anyway. It specifically needs to be Xbox English version, because otherwise you can't do a very, very, very big trick later in the game that saves a lot of time. It is the only way to play this category. PAL English is fine, but it needs to be English. I'm playing on the North American version of the game, because it has a faster paddy wagon and faster loads than the PAL version. PAL, you know, obviously being European. And then I guess this part would be where the donations would come in or something, I don't know. I guess this would be where the donations are. Got a $1 billion donation from DN. Okay, so that's unfortunate, but there's a backup. I can do an older version of the strategy. And this will be known, and this is known as the bulldozer. So it's quite a bit easier, but loses 4 seconds over the method I did earlier. And I even screwed that up. So now we're gonna do an even older method, known as fence setup. If I can get it. And this one is the hardest of them all and saves the least amount of time and is very inconsistent and horrible. This is the first found of the 3. You know, I have thoughts at the back of my head, like, wow, imagine if this got world record, because I am on pace right now, and then, well, at least I don't need to worry about that anymore. Anyway, after all the donations are read or whatever, then I'm just like, yeah, so, at least I technically got to show you all 3 methods of the out of bounds. That fence one, again, being the slowest and hardest of the three. But that is, like, the last resort backup that you go for until there's no more to go for. There is one more setup, technically, but it's not really doable, really, on this version. It is, but, like, no, you're not gonna do it in runs. But this is the end of repeating tokens that we've already done for the rest of the game, except for one more challenge. But as you'll see later on, you're not really repeating it as such. So that was like the last proper instance of like backtracking, like filler backtracking. This is for 3,000 miles of Shell City, you know, where we unlock Bash. It's faster to do bungee here if you're doing floating block later in the game, in the run like I am here. It's for a complicated reason, you don't really need to worry about it, but yeah, I just move the bungee objective next to floating block. And now this is the first floating block challenge that you'll see in the run. We'll only see 3. But this is by far the easiest one. It's just about getting good movement and stuff. To optimize Patrick's movement, you want to land on the ground, on the blocks as soon as possible, like on the edges. Because then you can cartwheel for a maximum duration of time. But then you're constantly risking Patrick ledge grabbing. And Patrick's ledge grabs lose like 2 seconds. So I am playing a little safe. But yeah, the reason why doing floating block later is fast is because we can 2-frame the token and skip the entire animation, a fade out, and a load. So that is the so it saves like 10 to 12 seconds if done correctly. But once again, I will be buffering it to make the window bigger. Again, like a quarter of a second, a third of a second. The lag in itself is also a little inconsistent, but it's still like a lot easier. And I got it just then. So with lag in this game, it can be inconsistent. We found that the game can lag randomly, even depending on like how far into a music track you are. Which you're not going to get to the same point of like that of a level every single time perfectly, you know? And even sometimes the game can lag too little and not give you the token, or lag too hard and not give you the token. But yeah, this is the second driving level, no weenie parking anytime. We just call it weenie. I just realized I probably should have been saying, like, what the actual point of the levels, although, so in Bubble Blow and Baby Hunt, which we played as Patrick, the objective is just to, like, find a key, which, like, one of the enemies, like, had that we fought at the beginning of the level, to get the key to be able to drive the paddy wagon again. And now in this challenge, we need to collect 5 keys spread across the level, and then we can cross the finish line. Similar to sandwich driving, we need to collect all the keys before the finish line trigger will spawn. There is an out-of-bounds method that you can use to grab the keys and to save 6 seconds, but it is one of the worst tricks in the game, and has virtually no semblance of consistency, which is why I'm not doing it. Trust me, I would love to show it off, because it's so cool. But yeah, this level is a lot harder to drive through. The turns are a lot more harsh, the nitro management matters more. However, there's no, like, big trick that we need to worry about. So overall, the level is easier, just not casually. I guess this would be where another donation goes, I suppose. Oh yeah. So on lap 1 I went the top path, and on lap 2 I'm going on the bottom path. You need to go the top path anyway to spawn a trigger, to go through a trigger that makes a ramp full, as you saw just then. We need the ramp to spawn, so we still need to pass through checkpoints. We need the ramp to spawn so that we can collect this key, And then after we collect it, it's just faster to re-warp to the beginning of the level. The gate has opened already, but instead of turning around, it is just slightly faster to reload the level, talk to Mindy, and go through the finish line. But just before that, I'm going to upgrade Slam. Again, this is the best possible time to upgrade Slam. Well, it's known as Smash or Slam, you can call it whatever. Mindy rewards you with tokens at the end of these sliding and driving levels, by the way. And now we are going to get to the first mini-boss of the game. There are 3 of them, and this one's the longest of the 3. Well, there's 4 bosses total, there's 3 mini-bosses. And this one is Frogfish. So this one's quite simple. We are just going to have Frogfish charge at us. He's going to charge too close to the edge, and then when he's dangling off the edge, we can cartwheel him. This is one of the reasons why we want cartwheel. Patrick's hitbox with upgraded cartwheel is significantly, like, this honestly is kind of a busted ability, but it also does double damage to Frogfish and makes the fight about maybe 20 seconds faster. Even though manliness points are a problem in some categories, in almost all of them, it's still worth upgrading Cartwheel. Cartwheel also makes it easier to, like, just touch other boxes and stuff and get even more manliness points. They're known as manliness points, but we call them manlies. When you get about halfway into the phase, the tongue spawns, and we just slammed the tongue a few times. Took it out very easily. And now here is the longest sliding level in the game with or without speedrunning strategies.
To get to shelter.
So, again, in the first objective of every sliding level, only in the first objective of every sliding level, you spawn in midair. We were able to use that and double jump backwards while the game was fading in. The timing's a little tricky, but not too bad. And this is known as Skydive, and it saves about 9 seconds. People always wonder how it saves so much because it's still quite a detour. But this level is very, very long. Again, with or without speedrunning strategies. It's the longest one in the game by a mile. So, we just travel out of bounds for a bit, have a little dot as a visual cue so we know when to turn, and then we just drop down, and again, saves like 9 to 10 seconds. And we're nearly at the bottom. There we go. And then we just drop down, build up a little bit of speed, and make it across. So, now we're going to do another trick, although it's quite easy. So, around where this flower is, we can drop down. There is a big trigger, but if we hang to the left a lot and then turn right, that was actually really unoptimal. I didn't have to go that far left. Yeah, you can drop down and skip a big section. This game, we haven't really seen this so far, but this game has hand triggers. In the show, there's a character known as Hans, and it's just a giant hand. And in this game, if you go out of bounds, sometimes there'll be a trigger, and if you touch the invisible trigger, then Hans will grab you. And we would have lost, like, a minute, but I was able to avoid the triggers. So, that just then, it's faster to go that path anyway in the speedrun. However, if you press A on the frame you touch the ground there, you get a big super jump, as it were, and it saves a few seconds, but I was able to, once again, buffer it, although that's one of the harder buffers in the run. So yeah, already we've had quite a few tricks in this level, despite its length, which, again, just shows how long the level is. But now, we can, you know, relax for a second, but we still need to grab manliness points. We need a lot of them. We'll be upgrading 3 more moves. But this is like the last stretch of the level, and there's one more strategy that we'll be doing in a minute. But before that, we still need more manliness points, so we're gonna grab this patty. The patty's health. You can upgrade SpongeBob and Patrick's health, but you can't upgrade their health in sliding and driving levels. Alright, so here's the final trick. This is just a super jump again, but it's slightly harder. If your jump spacing is too good there, and then you buffer the inputs with lag, it's possible to actually clip through the ground and die and lose, like, 50 seconds. So you have to purposely have bad jump, and it loses more time to fail the buffer anyway. But yeah, that's the end of the level. So, the reason why I'm sometimes going to the right is because the triggers for the end of the sliding and driving levels, all of them except sandwich driving, they're all angled weirdly, and they're all slightly closer to the right than anywhere else, which is why I keep going to the right. Now, this is one of the harder levels in the game. This is Now That We're Men, and we have just enough tokens for the ball move. This move on its own is terrible. We are going to immediately upgrade it, and now it is incredibly overpowered, and we need it for this category anyway. You know that big trick I was talking about earlier? We need upgraded ball to do it. There's no other way. But you'll see that much later in the run. So for now, we're just gonna simply go through the level. You know, I've skipped a couple triggers and stuff, but, you know, nothing crazy. But it is pretty difficult to traverse through this level quickly. And we'll especially see that in the second half of the level. We're going to do a trick here known as cutscene skip, so that we don't have to bowl a button twice and then watch a cutscene. Just doing some double jump spinning stuff. This game has dynamic jumping, so if you tap A, SpongeBob and Patrick will barely jump, but if you hold it, they'll jump for longer, so this game has a lot of tricks that need, like, good jump spacing. This is known as eel bowl. Normally we have to bowl the eel and wait a long time, but we can skip some of the process here, especially because we can grab the bungee warp now, and it is faster to do bungee later. It saves about 7 seconds, especially because then we can start the, we can get the eel moving quicker. Now here is one of the hardest tricks in the game. Let's see if I can get it. Wow, I actually did get it. That is one of the hardest tricks in the game for reasons that are kind of hard to describe. But it's just extremely precise and inconsistent. But it saves like 5-6 seconds if done perfectly. What I did just then was known as Fast Lobster. You don't really need to worry about it too much, but that saves probably about 4 or 5 seconds over the old strategy. And now we are done with the tunnel section. And now we move on to the second half of the level, which has a lot going on. Immediately, we're going to do something known as Bash Gang, and then we are going to skip a big section using this trampoline. Next, we're going to climb up here and immediately do, like, 3 tricks back-to-back. So I'm about to do Chris Skip, but I'm going to do a slower and harder version of it so that I can then set up another trick immediately after. So we're gonna ledge grab this. Okay, that is unfortunate. I just tried to do a token animation skip unlike any other one in the game. And you don't really, yeah, it'd be hard to explain why that happened, don't worry about that. Okay, that sucks. I was gonna drop down and drown in the lava at the same time to skip the token animation, but I unfortunately didn't get it. But now we're gonna do another trick known as Monster Skip. That is, like, the only time in a run where a buffer is used that doesn't remove difficulty. If anything, it actually adds difficulty. But yeah, just some damage boosting up on the eel to skip a section. And now, this is the second floating block challenge. Appreciate it while you can, because we will be out of here very shortly. Because we are going to do some more damage boosting. Okay, dude, I, like, literally never miss it. So, unfortunately, I messed up the buffer inputs just then, but this is just another damage boost into a buffer, and it skips the entire challenge. And then we're gonna do another token animation skip, and then we are going to warp to bungee. Part of the reason why doing bungee late saves so much, it's to skip the token animation. We could do that anyway, but it saves more time to do it later, to skip it, and then these targets are on a predictable cycle as well, so it makes it a lot easier to do them quickly. And then another token animation skip. And then we warp to the monster skip token, which we've already collected, and then we just end the level. And then, what do we get after doing one of the harder levels in the game? One of the hardest levels in the game, again, immediately after this. So this is Shell City Dead Ahead, and this is Patrick's last, dedicated platforming level. We'll be seeing Patrick again in another platforming level, but this is, like, the last one that he mainly stars in, no pun intended. This is where we unlock Throw, and we will be upgrading it, but we'll be upgrading it towards the end of the level. But now we're gonna do a trick known as Toilet Skip. A little harder than it looks, we're going around some invisible walls and stuff. But yeah, it saves, like, 6 seconds or something. But yeah, for now, it's just generic, like, just movement optimization stuff. But we will quickly be seeing some action in this level in a second. In fact, we'll be seeing it pretty much right now, so I'm going to get damage boosted by an enemy and store the damage momentum, the momentum just then, into the ice cube, so I can keep swinging myself around and building up speed. I just grabbed a warp for a token. That's intentional. We're not doing it now. And then, I'm out of bounds. I'm traversing out of bounds, and then I'm able to get back in bounds, and I just skipped a massive section of the level. And if anything, that out of bounds might honestly just be easier than going around casually, because there's so many enemies casually when you go around, and we don't have upgraded throw. Next, I'm going to go backwards a little bit, because I'm grabbing the SpongeBob Challenge warp, and we literally need it for this category to exist. And the token is fast anyway. Then I'm just going to do a little bit of a tricky ledge grab skip. There we go. And then we finish the first area of this level by throwing a melon at the TV. And then going through the door. And now we are immediately going to do quite a difficult trick. I will need silence for a little bit. We'll be doing slide jumps, essentially, like in Bubble Ball and Baby Hunt, but we'll be doing... There's like 3 or 4 times as many jumps. So use the crate to get up here, and now, please give me a second. Okay, and I got the 1 frame, so that's good. So all those jumps, once again, were 2-frame jumps. And then I was able to get the 1 frame on the token. That's one of the harder ones in the run, because the visual cue is pretty bad. But now I'm on an ideal cycle. That one, well, obviously it can be 2-framed. That 2-frame in particular saves about 3 seconds, without factoring cycle things. We are going to skip the floating block challenge, because once again, we'll be doing it later, to save a bunch of time. I grabbed that stack because I need enough manliness points. However, the stack does not take as long to grab as it looks, because we can, if optimally, we can not lose much from it. But yeah, I just upgraded throw, and if we're fast enough, we can hit the button before the Merv enemy gets in the way. We haven't really had to interact with them so far. But yeah, if you go near those enemies, they start shooting you with a laser. So they're pretty dangerous for Patrick, but that was the only time in the level where we actually like had to interact with them. And then we can just skip this section by just using upgraded throws. Ridiculous. It's pretty overpowered. We were able to just skip that entire trampoline section just then. And now we get to the second mini-boss, and believe it or not, it is not the shortest boss in the game. So this is Dennis. Pretty hard casually, but not too bad here. So just gonna be throwing melons on him quickly, and then I'm going to use the melon explosion to damage him. The melon explosion does more damage than the actual melon, so I was able to do double damage just then both times with the melon. And it is possible to 2-frame that token just then, but it's that one is a very unique 2-frame token, because it's unlike all the other ones, because after you skip the cutscene just then, you have a 2-frame window after pressing after skipping the cutscene to press start to get the 2-frame. However, I didn't get it, unfortunately. And here's the final floating block challenge of the run, by the way. There is something that builds up to this called ice physics glitch. So as you can see, or as you saw a second ago, and you will see in a bit, there are, like, ice blocks. You can see them in the distance as well. Not these ones, these ones. There is something that you have immediately when booting up the game known as ice physics glitch. And it gives you more speed on these blocks than what you're supposed to have. So I'm going on these blocks faster than I'm supposed to be. And you can lose ice physics glitch by getting hit by spit. So frogfish will spit at enemies. However, I didn't get hit by any spit, so I'm able to go through this as quickly as possible, which saves about 6 to 7 seconds. And once again, we are just going to 2-frame this token. And now I'm going to do the circ task that I grabbed the warp for earlier, and yes, it is to 2-frame the token. Saves about 3 seconds. And now we are doing the final sponge ball challenge of the run. There is one more sponge ball challenge, but you don't do it in this category, which kind of sucks. I quite like the challenge, but yeah, we literally, like I said, we literally need this one for this category to exist. But right now, we're just collecting its token. But yeah, it's still pretty fast and stuff, and this is the third to last backtracking token in the run. But unlike the sliding and driving levels, it's not just like a copy-paste thing. There was no way to grab this earlier, which is why I, like, needed to grab it now. When you do floating block late, you also need to do this later, too. Unless you, 2-frame the 3-meter token, but that's, like, you don't know if you will. Anyway, these can be pretty tricky, which is why I always think red, yellow, blue. So red, yellow, blue. Just get through it pretty easily like that, and then we try to 2-frame the token. And now, we're going back to a much earlier level, Bubble Bowl and Baby Hunt. Because you can only do this token with Patrick's throw ability, and we only got it recently. And this, there isn't much we can do here, just following a cycle, pretty much. Which is why I'm not going as fast as possible right now. So that I'm not on an unfavorable cycle. And just like half the other tokens in the run, we are going to 2-frame it. Okay, so this is the longest driving level in the game by a mile. Once again, just like Rock Slide, it is the longest casually and in a speedrun. However, it has gotten significantly faster over the past couple years. If you can believe it. So the objective, so SpongeBob and Patrick right now are basically just dreaming. They're in a dream sequence. So basically, Goofy Gooba is showing SpongeBob and Patrick the exit to this level, essentially. So he's making you do 3 laps, and we are, and then after the 3 laps, then we can go to the finish line and get out of here. So it might sound like it's some sort of auto-scroller or something, but it's actually not. Goofy Gooba isn't the issue. The issue is triggers. If you pass certain triggers, or if you avoid certain triggers, Goofy, because Goofy Goober, you know, he's not really part of this. It's about invisible triggers. If you don't go through some triggers, the game will realize that eventually once Goofy Goober has passed certain triggers, and then it'll fail you. So there were a couple shortcuts I could have already done by now, but I can't because of triggers that I need to pass. However, the triggers loosen up on the other laps. Also, Goofy Gooba has rubber banding. How fast he goes depends on how fast or how close you were to him before you, before either he got past you or you got past him. So right now he's going really fast. Nitro management is also very important in this level. It's probably the most important one for nitro management. So yeah, this path opens up on lap 2 and we have to go through it even though the path is actually not slow. Fun fact, in the time challenge, which we don't do in this category, you go on the generic path that we did on lap 1 on every single lap. It's just that you also take the shortcuts. But yeah, like, that's the fastest path. So these bonus paths that unlock, like, none of them are faster, which is kind of funny. But yeah, now we can finally get something done. I'm about to do something known as Fast Goob. So, again, like I said, the triggers have loosened up, and now we can finally go through this checkpoint that saves a ton of time. However, we are technically on a timer, and now we're gonna do another trick. Well, this is an actual trick. It's known as a spiral skip. It's kind of hard. You have to nitro at the right point of that section just then. And if done correctly, you can skip the spiral and save about 8 to 9 seconds. But so now, our objective is to get to the finish line before Goofy Goober passes a certain trigger. And if he passes it before we get to the finish line, he'll fail us and we lose the run, essentially. We lose minutes. I tried to do a trick just then, known as known as Sunday Jump. It is one of the hardest tricks in the game, and you can only do it on lap 3 on this challenge, in this task. It's really inconsistent because you need to get enough height, enough bounce off of the rock to make it over the fence, but just sometimes you just don't really get any height, like what happened to me just then. But still, I'm probably still very far ahead of Goofy Goober anyway. So I'm not really concerned, and then all that's left now is to get to the finish line, which we are about to in a second. So yeah, we're pretty restricted this level. If we weren't hindered by Goofy Goober, we could save an additional 40 seconds in this level, which would be incredible, and it'd still be the longest driving level in the game. But yeah, who knows if we'll ever find a way to get rid of him. We found out that if you delete Goofy Goober from the level, his triggers disappear too, so, you know, maybe one day we'll be able to find something. So this level is known as Google Eyes and Smelly Knickknacks, or GESK abbreviated. This is the, well, there's only 3 sliding levels in the game, so this is the final one. We will be coming back later, but like I said earlier, like, we don't really repeat the token as such. This objective is quite unique. We need to destroy 3 faucets, and then 4 targets higher up in the level. So right now we're going through wires and hoses and stuff. And just traversing through the level quickly. There's a Cyclops over this. The Cyclops took us to the to Shell City. And we escaped. This game is only loosely based off the actual SpongeBob movie. So I just jumped over a trigger when I respawned there. You have like a small window to jump over a trigger, so I don't like lose time. But yeah, now we're done with the faucets, and now I just need to collect to hit targets. Fun fact: we used to have a specific target route here that was standard for a very long time. And then we found a slightly faster and objectively easier one. And it saves like a second. And it's honestly, admittedly, not as cool. But yeah, gotta do what's fast. So just, you know, just traversing through this level quickly. So what we're doing now, these targets drop lamps. There is a slightly faster route you could do here, actually, that saves a little bit of time. But it's not worth it in this task because we need all the lamps dropped for when we come back later. You can technically skip 1 target, and it would save about a second or something in some categories. Although it is harder, so it generally isn't done. But yeah, the wire order and the hose order can be pretty complicated, but you just get used to it after a while. We're going to respawn and jump over another trigger. For some reason, when you touch the red wire from down below, you always spawn back here no matter where you are for the rest of the level. And that's very convenient because then we're just able to spawn back here quickly and quickly get to the finish line. The sliding levels don't have checkpoints, stuff that we need to worry about, unlike the driving levels. And now we are about to do the shortest boss in the game. It is another dentist boss, but even casually, it's faster and easier. But yeah, especially in the run, it's faster and easier. We basically just need to bowl Dennis a bunch of times. Although if you bowl him too quickly, he won't take damage, so you gotta time it well. So, purposely delay my bowl a little bit. There we go. And then just bowl him a couple more times. And then we can go for a 2-frame. And I didn't get it, unfortunately. And now we're gonna go back to Gask. However, the level's gonna be very, very different, which is why I said earlier it doesn't really count as, like, filler. This is one of the harder tricks in the game. So, I will need a second, please. Okay, that was a little shoddy, but the trick is pretty hard. So those were all 1-frame jumps. You know, earlier when I was doing those 2-frame jumps, so you get an even worse visual cue because instead of relying on Patrick's feet, you have to rely on a, you know, like a round crown. So they're already, like, harder anyway, but they're actually 1-frames. You can tell that they're 2-frames in the other levels because you get 2 different jump. One of the frames only gives you a single jump, and the other frame gives you a double jump. However, this time you only get the double jump frame, which means that it's a 1-frame every single jump, which is why it's so hard. These also save the least amount of time out of all the slide jumps in the game, and it's the latest in the run, so yeah, it's pretty brutal. If I did it perfectly, I could have gotten like a 104 or 103 here, but unfortunately I'm only getting a 112, so I only saved about 9 seconds. But it was still pretty cool. Otherwise, casually, this would just be very, very easy and basic. But now we're getting to the final platforming level of the game, and this one is pretty tough. Welcome to Planktopolis Minions, or just Plank. So, what you're supposed to do here, you're supposed to have 40 Goofy Goober tokens for guitar. However, we have 36. That being said, we can collect the tokens without guitar. First off, by doing this. Yeah, not too difficult. And all the tokens that we can collect don't need guitar, and they're not any faster with guitar, so it's just very convenient to just grab these tokens. We need guitar because we need it specifically for 2 things. There's no other way to bypass 2 things in particular unless we have guitar. So the objective of this category, essentially, is to get 40 tokens as fast as possible, and then basically book it to the end of the game immediately. That bungee challenge then was quite difficult, but it's the only one where the cycle starts as you go on the bungee hook. And now we're going to do a pretty easy out of bounds. And then we're going to clip back inbounds, although this is a little tricky, but I managed to do it. That skipped a massive section with going around, defeating a bunch of enemies, watching a cutscene, and just destroying, like, this little mini-boss statue thing in the level. And, I hope you like Patrick, because for the next, like, minute, this is the last you'll see of him. So all we're gonna do, we're gonna grab the warp for the combat arena. I know we said we don't do any combats, but this one's a little special. And then we're gonna make it to this token, and we're gonna 2-frame it. In the actual commentary run, I just realized it. Whenever it's an actual 2-frame, I should say 2-frame, and I should say buffer whenever it's not just 2-frame. Anyway. So we do that one because it's a joke token, essentially. The combat arenas are supposed to have you defeating a ton of enemies for a token. For some reason, for the Planktopolis one, they just have you destroy... they just have you kill a jellyfish? I'm not really complaining, though, because... Imagine... You didn't see it, but there's a Nalo and Men combat arena that's unbelievably hard, and it's just ridiculous enemy spam. So I couldn't imagine what this one would be like if it was, you know, if it was actually, like, not a joke challenge. Anyway, we go out of bounds really easily. This is one of the most broken levels in the game. And we're going to skip an enormous section, including the, way to do this casually. There's no way that you can't 2-frame this token, by the way. It literally saves, like, 5+ minutes, and it's really easy. Now we have 40 tokens, and now we can finally get guitar. And we are going to set up something known as bowl storage. But you don't really need to worry about that right now. Instead, we can warp to the second task, which we just collected the token for. And now we are going to enter Area 2 of Planktopolis. And this area has evolved quite a bit over the years. I'm about to do a trick that saves a lot of time, and it saves even more time once you know more things about it later on. But yeah, for now, we're just doing a bunch of wall jumping real quick, and then things will change very quickly. Okay, so I just did some unique lag clips called guitar clips. So just before SpongeBob like lands on a wall jump surface, he's able to in a short window of time he's able to guitar for a little bit. Normally it doesn't really do that much. However, we were able to lag clip combined with guitar to clip through, and then we were able to lag again. And this is known as a sponge glide, and it saves a lot of time. Combined with bowl storage, it saves like 40 seconds. It's ridiculous. And then we're going to do another unique lag clip called an... it's a little bit difficult, but it's just known as an R+A clip, like pressing the R trigger and the A button at the right time. Then we're going to do a bash boost to get across here to skip a huge section. Well, we've really done this level to skip huge sections. And now, finally, we're going to do something called Monumental Bash. Do a damage boost to get over here, and then you can damage the statue from underneath. Saves a bit of time. That all went by pretty quickly, but yeah, we just did a bunch of stuff. And now we're done with the level. And now we are going to finish setting up bowl storage. So normally you need 50 tokens to get past this area, to unlock the paddy wagon. However, I have a different idea in mind. You know, that's a lot of tokens to collect. You know, I'm not really feeling like it. As a matter of fact, isn't Mindy supposed to be, you know, helping us save Bikini Bottom? Isn't it kind of bad for her to be holding these tokens? That's what I say, right? So we're gonna say, screw Mindy. We're just gonna ignore her. And I just did a trick known as Mindy Skip, and we have just saved about 18 minutes. So, in case you have absolutely no idea what just happened, we don't really exactly know that much either, but there's a lot that goes on. So, when you upgrade Sponge Bowl, it has like a big shockwave aura when it detonates. If you pause during it and warp away, it writes to memory for some reason. And then, if you go to the Shell City Dead Ahead Sponge Bowl challenge afterwards, then go to this level. For some reason, it, like, deletes parts of this level, and it just so happens to delete Mindy's conversation to ask you for 50 tokens. Even though you saw SpongeBob and Patrick talking to Mindy, we were able... So, you can actually still control the paddy wagon, because SpongeBob and Patrick in the paddy wagon is counted as a different player compared to SpongeBob and Patrick talking to Mindy. And we were able to... When you close the menu, you're able to inch forward a little bit. Some bowl storage effects don't kick in until you die in a level. So basically, we wrote to memory, warped to a level to write, to keep writing to memory. Then we warped to Knucklehead McSpazatron. And then, as it was written to memory, we were able to slowly drive into a pit, die, and then finally it kicked in. The game didn't know what to do, so it activated every single challenge at once. Both time challenges and the ring challenge and the main challenge. But then when you reload the level, then it makes everything reset back to normal. If you still have no idea what I'm talking about, I guess don't worry about it, but it's very easy. It's English Xbox exclusive, and it's very, very strange, and we don't really get it, and it's the only useful application of the tech that we found. We don't really get it, so I guess we don't really need to worry about it more than that, but yeah, it saves a ridiculous amount of time. So this level is sandwich driving, but backwards. But it's obviously a lot harder to drive through, and unfortunately does not have sandwich out of bounds. So it's actually the easiest driving level in the game, probably. It does have a couple tricks, but they're not really possible on this version. And even if it was, they'd be insanely difficult. So yeah, this is more, you know, the calm before the storm. Also, with Mindy Skip, by the way, it has, like, roughly, like, a 20 to 25% chance to fail. No, we do not know why. And I would have just had to redo the setup and lose, like, 50 seconds or something. And now we are finally at the final boss. King Neptune. So this is, like, cycle-based, but there's obviously things we can do to speed it up. Just then, I guitared near him because he deflected it, and then he started his attack earlier, saves about a second. It makes this cycle harder, but if you have good movement, you can make it in time. This first phase is actually the hardest in the speedrun. You need to make it close enough, so Neptune is now in first-person phase. The objective is to get him to only have to shoot once if you're fast enough. And then we upgrade guitar here. SpongeBob's unupgraded guitar has a faster animation than upgraded guitar, but upgraded guitar does 50% more damage to Neptune. So that's why we didn't upgrade it in Planktopoulos. And I just upgraded it as late as we could possibly get away with. Also, that aura around Neptune is because of bowl storage. You know when you pause during a bowl detonation? That aura gets, for some reason, in every level, it spawns a map origin 000 for some reason, and Neptune is at, like, 010 or something like that. It's coordinates. However, we can easily get rid of it if we really want to. It doesn't, like, really do anything. It just means that that's how you know that bowl storage is in effect. Bowl storage can cause, like, a lot of crashes and stuff, by the way, and there's literal, like, tens of thousands of potential combinations, which is why we haven't found anything useful for it. But yeah, then we're on the second phase now, which is the laser phase. But this is a lot easier because we can easily make it to the statue in time. We're just jumping around, maneuvering, just spinning the tables. We need to spin the tables, and then Neptune shoots the statue. The statue reflects, hits all the tables, which then points at Neptune, which stuns him, which means that we can then guitar him. And we have upgraded guitar because it means we can take him out in 6 hits as opposed to 9. And now we are about to enter the final phase. And we get the really awesome music in the background. So, casually, this is the hardest phase, but what makes it the easiest in the speedrun is knowledge. So, he still has his lasers, but only one pattern of lasers. However, there are spitters in the way. But one thing you need to know, even casually, this helps a lot, right? Look, just bash the spitters. You can easily time it alongside the cycle. It actually makes it a lot easier. And then something exclusive to Phase 3. If you pan the camera down, you can avoid the lasers entirely. As long as it's not where Neptune starts his attack, obviously, so... where Neptune... So right there, if I pan the camera down there, I'd still get hit. But if I pan the camera down at any other point now, I can avoid the attacks. But then it would be very difficult to maneuver, so... Yeah, so it's a little anticlimactic, but at least the music's awesome. Time ends, by the way, on the final hit. So it'll look just like all the other hits. So time ends very soon. Just give it a few seconds, and we will be done. And... time. 102.29. Actually, not a bad run. It could have been a lot worse. Sandwich driving was really bad, and so was Now That We're Men. It was basically just sandwich driving and Now That We're Men. As a matter of fact, this would have PB'd. Yeah, no, this actually just would have PB'd if sandwich driving and Now That We're Men were just, like, average. That's pretty nuts. Yeah, so the rest of this run was really good. Anyway, also this game was very rushed, which is why there's, PowerPoint cutscenes, as the community calls them. So I guess that ends the run. And I don't know what I'd make the estimate. I guess I'd make it like 110 or something. I could easily guess sub 105, but, you know, just in case. And also, that would allow me to, you know, if time permits, I could show something cool off. I didn't really think this far. I didn't do any practice before this run, so it's pretty amazing to get a really good run going, actually, into SD102. The run was actually really good until then. But I guess, you know, if it was like, oh, if time permits, what would I do? I guess VMS. VMS is pretty cool. Is there anything else cool? I can't really think of anything at the top of my head. I guess I'll do VMS. So, if time permits, I would like to show off something that is unfortunately useless in the run. And this is known as vertical momentum storage. It would save a lot of time, but we unfortunately don't get enough from it. So we are going to store vertical momentum and carry it into a different location. So if this were applicable to a run, after the combat arena, we'd spawn back here, and then we clip out of bounds as SpongeBob. Okay, fuck this. I'm just gonna do the fucking... the easier one. And then we can essentially do the out of bounds that we did with Patrick as SpongeBob. And this might seem pretty useless because SpongeBob is a lot slower than Patrick, but we're able to, again, do something unique with it. And you can get a ledge grab around here. It's a little precise, though. Otherwise, I can just do an R+A clip. But we wouldn't have guitar at this point in the run, so we wouldn't be able to do that in an actual run. And then basically, these are supposed to be spawned, like, way higher up in the level. So when we bowl this, it's going to shoot us up a lot. And now we can carry it to another level. So if you want to do it as SpongeBob, you hold the R trigger and the A button in the middle of a load. And then we get a huge height boost. As you can see here. With Patrick, you would just hold A. But yeah, this is a pretty cool thing. I guess if I could show off also one more thing, because this will be very quick too. I would like to show something off known as box state. And, this basically, makes it so that enemies, like, cannot damage you or anything. So you go in a box that does not have the other box's, warp unlocked. And you pause in the box, and then warp to any location, and then you'll activate box storage. Or, box state, rather. So I just use the unlockable task cheats to show you... You know when I talked about the Naddleman combat arena earlier? Like, this is what I was talking about. And it's just ridiculous enemy spam. However, enemies can't attack you when you're in a box, and it preserves when you're in the box. So this may seem incredibly useful. However, I'm trying to spin, I can't spin. I'm trying to bash, I can't bash. I'm trying to bowl, I can't bowl. All I can do is use guitar. And this is not fast. Even in other categories, this isn't fast because you lose a lot of time from having to manually walk up to all the enemies. But yeah. I guess if I were to show off one more thing, and maybe long nitro, but that's kind of a pain to set up. Anyway, I guess this was my practice commentary run. Thank you for watching, and I will see you around.